Next up in our ACC preview is the only new Power 4 team that we have this year. That is the SMU Mustangs, going from the American Athletic Conference over to the ACC as of right now. And Dalton, last year, SMU is probably the most complete Group of 5 team that we had. They were one of only 4 teams in the country who had a top 10 offense and defense in terms of PFF grade. The other 3 were Michigan, the national champion, Alabama, who was a playoff team, and Notre Dame, who had a really good team last year as well. They also had an 11-win season, something they haven't done, Dalton, since before they got the death penalty in 1987. So by all accounts, it was one of the best years we've seen from SMU since they got the death penalty back in the 80s. Now they go from the AAC to the ACC, like I said before. First time in nearly 3 decades that they're in a power conference now. So really, really fun times for SMU right now. And Dalton, listen, last year with the Big 12 adding 4 new schools in UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati, all 4 of those teams had losing seasons. All 4 of them were disappointments. I think SMU, man, can immediately compete not only in the ACC, but for an ACC title and a college football playoff berth, thanks to basically the same roster that they had last year and a very manageable schedule as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I think the biggest thing is they're bringing just about the entire team back. There's a couple of guys that transferred out, but for the most part, you got 16 of their 20 best players coming back, including Preston Stone, their quarterback, coming back from a broken leg he suffered against Navy towards the end of the regular season last year. But even with their backup quarterback, Kevin Jennings, they still won the conference championship game against Tulane. So it's a really good football team, especially offensively with what Rhett Lashley has going. The pace and the amount of big plays that they make offensively is what makes them dangerous. But the continuity, the experience, and the fact that they're bringing almost their entire team back from last year gives them some hope to compete in the ACC.
Yeah, by the way, we actually interviewed Rhett Lashley a couple months ago. So if you want to check out that interview, he's an awesome guy and terrific coach, obviously, as well. Biggest weakness and biggest question really is how are they going to handle the jump, right? Because last year they were 0-3 against Power 5 competition. In fact, their only 3 losses on the season were to Power 5 teams. 2 of those 3 losses came to TCU and Boston College, who combined for a 12-13 record. So, yeah, they lost to Oklahoma, who's a really good team. But TCU and Boston College really weren't that good of teams, and SMU still lost to them, right? So that's kind of the biggest question right now is that, yeah, they were 11-0 against Group of 5 competition, but 0-3 against Power 5 competition. Now you go into a Power 5 conference. How's that going to look in transition? Now, of course, we said before how we really are high on them this year, but that is a question mark at least going into the year when you were 0-3 against Power 5 competition the year before. But Dalton, one of the best quarterbacks that we had in the Group of 5 last year, and now one of the best quarterbacks we have in the ACC is Preston Stone. Before he got injured, what did you like the most when you saw from his game?
There's a few things. Look, I mean, despite having probably a more above average arm than in like absolute cannon, right? I'd give his arm strength probably a B or B plus. He had the 3rd most big time throws in the regular season last year behind Drake May and Michael Penix. They make big plays in this offense, and Stone is the reason for it, right? His timing and his touch on deep balls is really, really impressive, and he's really impressive in the play action game that Rhett Lashley sets up for him. Now, he's really good on the move, too. He doesn't run a whole lot, but he knows how to improvise to throw, and he's always looking downfield, man. Don't let any of these SMU receivers behind you, right? And I think for Stone, the big thing is he's not the most, physically imposing guy, right? The good news is he's protected generally, but it's a high average depth of target, too. So he's a bit of a gunslinger. There are some turnover-worthy plays in there that are more like, okay, we're trying to get downfield constantly. And in the games where he's trying to get downfield too much, the TCU game's a really good example because that was actually his worst game of the season where it's like, okay, reel it in. It's the same way we talk about Garrett Green a little bit. Just reel it in for me just a little bit because there's sometimes you're trying to swing for the fences too often. But don't get me wrong, down the stretch after that TCU game and before he got injured, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Absolutely perfect skill set for this offense. And I think as long as he's recovered from the broken leg that he suffered, he should have a spectacular season.
Yeah, absolutely should, man. And one guy up front protecting him that we also really like is Logan Parr, their offensive guard. Transferred to SMU from Texas and immediately produced for them as their starting left guard last year. He was one of only 6 Group of 5 guards to earn top 15 grades as both a pass blocker and as a run blocker. 84.6 pass blocking grade, was 8th in the Group of 5, and he didn't allow a single sack on any of his 354 pass blocking snaps either. Really talented player in space as well. He had a 79.4 zone blocking grade. That was in the 84th percentile for FBS guards as well. So I really like SMU's offensive line, even though they lost Branson Hickman, who's a star center who transferred over to Oklahoma. But I think Logan Parr, still on that interior, is a really, really good player they bring back next year.
Agree. You get a star transfer on the offensive line, and I get one on the defensive line. One of my favorite players in the entire country off the edge for them is Elijah Roberts, a transfer from Miami. Second best overall grade in the country among edge defenders, only behind Leatu Latu. 6th in the nation in pass rush grade. And Max, there are times he's a big, powerful presence at 6'4" and 280. He's big power rusher off the edge. There's times he could take games over, man. I was lucky enough to actually get to grade him in the conference title game against Tulane, and he just took the game over. I believe he won PFF Defensive Player of the Week that week. He was just a dominant force. When he gets it rolling, it's a hard task to deal with his power, his strength, and even he's getting better. He's getting a little bit twitchier on his get-off as the season went on. Elijah Roberts, I think, is one of kind of the sleeper edge defenders to look out for in next year's draft, but he's SMU's best defensive player, and it's really not close.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. 2nd most pressures in the country, 5th most sacks in the country. He is a dominant player, man. But, Dalton, what's the bottom line for this team right now? Will it be a smooth transition for SMU going from the American Athletic Conference to the ACC, and are they a top ACC contender, or do you think it'll be a rougher transition like it was for the 4 new Big 12 schools last year?
I think they're a dark horse. I think about last year, the TCU game. Oklahoma was just better than them. I'm in on that, right? The TCU game, Preston Stone had his worst game of the year, and then from the rest of the season, he was on fire. And the bowl game against Boston College, I kind of side-eye a little because it was with their backup quarterback in the pouring rain. It was pouring rain that day. I think they were playing in Boston, actually. It was kind of a home game for BC. And Boston College is a running team and got them into a muddy, low-scoring game, and they're not going to be in those very often. But no, there's going to be an adjustment a little bit, but I think those bruises kind of help them out a little bit. Okay, this is the type of competition we have to play against, and these are the type of teams that we have to beat, right? They could have one of, if not the best offense in the ACC right away. This is an explosive football team, and Rhett Lashley's a really good game planner and just creates explosive plays constantly. Long as Preston Stone is healthy, I really think they are a dark horse in the ACC.
I'm with that, man. And they have the 7th best odds to win the ACC right now, according to FanDuel. I don't think that's correct, right? I think they have a much better chance than that of making it to the ACC title game and winning the ACC title, honestly. With their schedule they have, they have the 3rd easiest schedule in the ACC according to our power rankings. Their non-conference games are Nevada, I think Holy Cross. No, excuse me, not Holy Cross. Houston Christian. And BYU and TCU, right? That's manageable, very much so. So then after that, you play Florida State. You got Louisville. That's really it in terms of like the really good ACC teams that they play, right? So they have a very, very manageable schedule. I think there's certainly a really good chance that they can make the ACC title game next year because of the roster they have and offensively and defensively, and like I said, that easy schedule as well. So I think in a wide open ACC, SMU's got a good shot, man. And in our power rankings zone, they actually have the best chance to win the ACC at 19% right now, which I don't necessarily agree with that, but that just shows that, hey, they are getting undervalued in the sports books right now. So if you're a betting man, maybe sprinkle a little cheddar on SMU plus 1,500 to win the ACC next year, because it's going to be a really, really fun team to follow as they make their transition from the Group of 5 to the Power 4 now. But that's what we got for our preview of the SMU Mustangs. Hey, thanks for watching the PFF College Football Show. Before I let you go, though, we have an unbelievable deal for you guys right now. If you use the code CFB25, you get 25% off your PFF Plus annual subscription. We've got the 2024 College Football Preview Guide that you can find over at pff.com, featuring the best players in the country from all 70 Power 5 teams, plus 10 Group of 5 teams that have the best chance at making the college football playoff as well. You can also gain access to NCAA premium stats for historical games, teams, and player tracking dating all the way back to to 2014, so the last decade or so of college football. All the stats you can hope for, you can find in PFF Premium as well. Also, you can be the GM of your favorite NFL team with our unbelievable mock draft simulator where you can draft up to 7 rounds of players for your NFL team. And if you want to dominate your fantasy league, you could do that as well using the best fantasy tools on the planet. All of that and more with your PFF Plus annual subscription, which you can find for 25% off right now with the code you can find in the description. Or if you want to go to subscribe.pff.com and use the code CFB25 at checkout. Again, you get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. This won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now.